forward to this computer. Hi, everybody. Recruiting Animal here on July. You know what? I do it too loud. I've been listening to the video. Recruiting Animal here on July 14th, 2021. And look at all the people. Okay, yeah, look. Oh, one's coming and going, okay? The guest over here, at least right now, is Aki Narita. Is that the way you say your name?
Actually, my full name is Akihide Narita, but yeah, Aki is great.
Why make it hard, Akihide? Okay,
time.
Aki is good. We used to have another guy in the community, Aki Kako from Finland, but I haven't seen him around for a long time.
Really? Aki Kako? It really sounds like a Japanese name.
Yeah, he's Finnish, okay? And he's white. He's whiter than white. I've met him. And on this side, with the guy who's growing his hair a little, it seems to me, Clang. His name's Ivan Gulenko. But he's coming here. I give him a free plug for his new ATS, which he claims is super fast, and it's called Clang. KLANG.SO. Down in the other corner here is Mario R, all the way from India with his washed out video, and he likes to show us his ceiling, just like Aki. They don't want to adjust their cameras. They like us to see their ceilings. And here's a new guy, Todd Schechter. I've never met him before. He's got sort of that washed out look too, but don't worry about it, Todd. It's your first time.
All right. Sorry about that.
I'm ready to go. This guy today is a bit different. He is in Japan. I grew up, I think, in South America. He'll tell us. I'll note something, okay? Apparently, this is one of the worst things ever to do. But I told him before the show started that his English is excellent, okay? He is a multinational cosmopolitan person, and he speaks like he's from North America. I think that's great. And I will note, okay, sorry, I'm going on. Ivan Gulenko, he's got a Russian name, but he grew up in Germany, and but he worked in Switzerland. And when he went to Switzerland, he made a point of picking up the local accent. And I find that admirable. I don't think it's racist to ask him to do that. I think it builds rapport with the people you're speaking to. Am I right about that, Ivan?
100%, 100%. And it's a dialect. Accent is something different, but thank you anyway.
Dialect, okay. Aki, how did you get to speak English so well? Because you
actually, I went to international school here in Japan. So really learned English the same way you all did at school.
Really? Okay. Mario R, he's from a quasi-English speaking country. Okay. Okay, so let's get going. This guy was a recruiter for 10 years, both corporate and agency. And now you've moved into personal and professional coaching and recruiting coaching. So I assume those are all three separate things. Feel free to tell us what they mean. First, tell us your website, okay? So what's your website? Do you have
my website is thinkdoachieve.com.
Thinkdoachieve.com. Thinkdoachieve.com. Okay, now I got a feeling I'm going to interrupt you. Tell us what you do. What is the personal, professional, and recruiting coaching?
Sure. So basically what I have right now, can you hear me?
Louder.
Okay, so let me get closer to my mic here. Is that better?
I guess I was boring. I lost Todd already. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Do whatever you have to do.
Awesome. Okay. So what I do is I basically coach recruiters and also in-house talent acquisition professionals to come up with their strategies, come up with talent branding, as well as like mental coaching for their teams to kind of help them achieve their targets, achieve their goals, kind of like their own mentor, so to speak.
Okay, that's your full-time job. You're not recruiting anymore. Am I right about that?
That's correct.
Okay, you're very excited about this. Am I right?
Yeah, this is something new. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to take, you wrote an article on LinkedIn called Recruiting is a Noble Art, okay?
Correct, yeah.
And I read it, and I'm going to criticize you for it, okay?
Please do.
Okay, you
Have
said,
the fun.
Okay, you said more than an increased paycheck, you know, more than an escape from a horrible boss, or even learning a new skill, people are looking for meaning and belonging and purpose and fulfillment. And you say, once I learned to see my job in this light, it was reflected in how I spoke to people and in my results as a recruiter. Okay. You said, I was at WeWork. And that's when I truly understood. It was a gradual process for you. You were at Autodesk, you started to get it, then you moved to WeWork, and you really were enlightened, okay? And you say, I believe that this is why we were so successful when it came to hiring. When you understand what a person longs for and connect that with a place where they can achieve it, recruiting becomes a noble art. Okay, well, really, you know what that says to me? Nothing special. You know what kind of job the person wants. And if you have the right thing, yeah, hey, I'm going to put you in there. Am I wrong, or are you saying something else?
I think you are right. And I believe I'm also right, because at the end of the day, what you really want as a recruiter, especially in Japan, where
Little louder. Put the mic close to your mouth.
All right, let me just fix up
Put
my
the
setup
screen
here a
close
little
to your
bit.
face. That's okay. We don't care if you. Oh, you got a microphone there.
I do, yeah. Lovely secondhand microphone's got a little dings, but it's
Shove it
got
in your
personality.
face. Shove it in your face. You're too
All
polite.
right,
Okay,
can you hear
you've got
me?
a mild manner.
All right. So, interestingly enough, for Japan, like I've never recruited for the US and other regions outside of Asia for the most part, but in Japan, we have a population shortage, a decreasing in number of basically people, right? We have more people passing away than being born. In fact, 60%, or no, actually 30% of the
Hear
Japanese.
the geography and demographics about Japan. Just get to the point, okay?
It's going to get to the point. So just hold on for a sec. 30% of the Japanese population is over 60 years old. What that means is there's a really limited number of people. So in Japan, there's more jobs than there are people, right? People have on average about 4 or 5 offers per person whenever they get on the recruiting market. So people in Japan, it's not so much as like, oh, you know, who's going to give me a good job? Who's going to give me a good paycheck? Everyone is out there willing to do that. In Japan, it's more about, okay, what's it going to be for me? How is this, you know, position other than the paycheck, which of course is really important. You know, you can't put that down, but also about as a human being, you know, what do I want more? Is it, you know, is it going to help my family? Is it going to help what I really, really want? Not just another paycheck, just, you know, 10% increase in salary, etc.
Well, how's it? Hold on a second. You know what? How's it going to help your family? What does that mean? And then you say, aside from the paycheck, how's it going to help your family aside from the paycheck? What are you talking about?
So one of it is when I have 3 kids, right? And when you really
Who are
love
you? You
your
don't have to
job.
say. You look pretty young.
Well, I am young.
Dude, seriously, excuse me. You have 3 kids. You look damn young, man.
Oh, trust me. Okay, so I'm gonna get into this. Is gonna be a lot of fun for you guys. But I'm just gonna put this out there before I go back in.
Okay.
My eldest right now, he turned 14 this year, and my second turned 13 just last week, and my youngest turned 8. I was gonna turn 8 next month. So just do the math in your head while I
You have
explain.
been damn busy.
Hey, you only live once, right?
Okay.
But anyway, so going back to the topic that Mr. Animal said is how it relates to your family is, you know, no man is an island, right? We all have an influence to the people who live around us, especially if you're a parent, a father, a mother. You know, if you are stressed out at work, you're going to bring that home and it's going to affect your family. For example, one person I helped find a job for, he was an Indian gentleman who lived in Japan, spoke really great Japanese. And, you know, he was having a tough time at work. He was always stressed out. He didn't enjoy it, paid him well, but, you know, it's affecting his family, his marriage, his kids, etc. So when I was able to really help him find a role that would really fit him as a person where he can start actually enjoy his job, it completely changed his life around. And in fact,
what was it about the culture? I'm going to be reading. This is Ernie just welcomed us. Ernie has been on the show 100 times, but he's never learned to adjust his camera. So, you know, we're not looking at his ceiling. And I still can never get, you know, he had this beautiful long hair during the COVID lockdown. And I can't get used to him with the shorter hair. Okay. But
let it go,
Ernie posted a testimonial about his approach to stress. I'm going to read that in a few minutes, but I want to know more specifically right now how you determined which culture would help this person's mental condition.
Well, it's just about learning what they value as a person. What's
What does
important
that
for
mean
them.
when you're talking to them on the phone?
On the phone, it's like, what do they really enjoy doing? Getting to know them as a person, like their
What does
hobbies.
that mean? Okay, I read all your fluff stuff. What does it mean in concrete terms? You're talking to an Indian guy like Mario, okay? And what are you going to ask him? What are you going to ask him, say, about your culture? You getting along with your wife well? Does your job?
Animal, 1 second. Sorry, stop. The Japanese have a very different culture when compared to the Americans, the Indians, the South, everything else. Okay, they have something called face. If I'm correct, Aki.
That's
Okay, because
correct.
I know a lot of Japanese people. So when you deal with Japanese, you got to deal based on face. You can't talk like that with them. They get insulted. Even if they're going to get $1 million salary, they're
This is
going
an
to dump it.
Indian guy. It was an Indian
Dude, I'm
guy
not Indian,
working in
dude. You're
Japan.
Sri
That's
Lankan.
why I referred to you.
I-
Wake up!
How do I
I-
insult Japanese people? Say that again. How do I do the insulting?
You don't talk
correctly?
direct
See,
to
they
them.
have
you
a
said.
see, Ivan, you guys, we are very direct. Okay, we are direct to the face. Look, I like you, I don't like you, or I don't like you, whatever. Okay, but in Japanese, you don't say that. You can't say that. Okay, especially with dealing in the recruiting market. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay?
No, you're
Okay.
right. It's very complicated
Because
here sometimes.
it's very complicated. It's very subtle. See the way if Michael was recruiting in Japan, they will throw him out of there immediately. I'm telling you very frankly.
I think you did
wonder if
great,
that's
Michael.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the animal. My apologies.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
apologize.
Mr. Animal.
Let's get back to this. What this Indian candidate in Japan, you sorted out, you helped his family life by finding him a better culture. And you're
Right.
stressing,
Well,
this
it's
is
not
some-
about. Okay, let's just go back there. It's like the word culture, I think people use it too much. What's really important is like what the person can do as an individual. Like this person, important for him was to be able to do something that he was actually personally interested in doing, and that he can go home at a reasonable hour, right? In Japan, it's very common for people to stay working till like 10, 11, midnight, till the last train. In fact, there have been cases in Japanese, there's a word called karoshi, which is basically death by overwork. And it's an actual problem in Japan. We're already having a dwindling population. It's like we can't afford people to die any other way than old age, So that was what's really important for this specific individual.
Aki, come on, people are listening to this show, and I'm having to wrestle with you to give you to make you get us like okay, I don't like the word culture. I want to find out what you asked this guy, because you say we have to get to know them. I didn't give everybody all the extent to which you say we got to get to know them as people, blah, 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 and then find them a place where they're going to have meaning like it's a religion, okay? What did you ask this candidate, and how did you know that this other thing was a good job? What did you ask the candidate first? Just let's stay with that.
Specifically, what you ask, what I always ask everyone, and I'm sure most of you have been in recruiting for enough years, is things like what they like, simple things like that, their life story, and also career, professional.
What do you mean? Well, how do you ask him about his life story? I'm stupid. Okay, tell me the exact words you use to ask their life story, to get the information you want, because I'm clueless based on what you've said. I know what you're looking for. Get there to know them. But what questions do you actually give me the words so I can mimic you when I'm on the phone?
So when you're talking to someone, more than the actual like what you're saying, it's what they're saying, right? So you basically prodding them. What you want to do is them to speak 80% of the time or more, and you speak 20% or less. So you're really putting out very open-ended questions. And what you want to hear is, look, even things like, their hobbies, what they do when off their work, when they get home, what do they look forward to when they get home?
You ask their hobbies?
Of course.
Really? But does anyone else here ask hobbies? Anybody want to comment? You do, Mario? Why?
I definitely make it a point to get to know them. I mean, again, maybe
I don't ask them
in Japan is different from over there, but in Japan, because there's probably more recruiters than candidates, to be honest, sometimes it's about building that long-term relationships. I have candidates.
They don't feel you're prying.
You don't get right away.
Somebody might say, hey, Aki, what's it your business what I do when I'm not at work? I'm looking for a job.
Yeah,
now,
so
I
I'll
used
always
to
tell
work
them
with
a little bit of my story as well.
I used to work with a guy from Corn Ferry, and he was very big on hobbies because he said he could tell their energy level from hobbies. I'm dying to read this from Ernie. Okay, I loved it, and it's about stress level. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but you know when Moses he meets God on Mount Sinai, and he asks, "What's your name?" He says, "I am who I am." Right? That's a few different translations, but essentially that's what Ernie says as well. He says, "My stress level is 1." Ernie, that's like 1 is the lowest out of 10, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, you can only handle 1. He says, "My work hours vary, but never more than 40. I wake up each morning without an alarm clock. I sometimes work after 5 or on weekends. My goal each day is no stress, no drama, and enjoy life. If I do not like the client or candidate, I fire them, okay? I am a contingency recruiter. I work from home. I work with a few remote recruiter friends, and I tell myself not to worry over what I can't control. I'm the boss of me, okay?" And he works in the food industry recruiter. What did I call you? Was it foodindustryrecruiter.com? What URL did I give you? Is that it? What? You don't even know. Okay, okay. I think he's foodindustryrecruiter.com. But he's telling us right there what he likes. He doesn't want any bullshit with anybody. Can you get that information out of a candidate? Since you said that's what you want, right? That's the stuff you want. Hacky.
Sure, you want always, before you get in,
that?
you always have your objectives, what you want, what information you want, which is obviously what the candidate ideally is looking for in their job. What motivates them, what makes them want to leave their current job, what would make them want to stay at the next job, right? That's your primary objective, that information. But then there's also the secondary and tertiary information that you want to pull out as well, because the goal is not just to place the candidate. That's great. You want to do that's the first one. But then it's also to build long-term relationship, because in 5 years and 6 years down the line, when they're looking for a job again, who are they going to call? Or if their friend is looking for a job, and who are they going to recommend as a good agent? And in Japan, that is the majority of the battle, is finding the candidates. Placing the person is not very difficult because there's so many jobs out there. If you have a good candidate, you can place them anywhere you want. Literally, it's not a problem.
Does anybody else have a question? I feel like I'm not getting what I want. Although he seems like a nice guy. I got to tell you, I like him, and I think he's somebody you could talk to as a coach. Because you know what? When I read your article, I thought this guy's a goody goody. But you're just a regular guy who's nice, okay? And that's what I like. You're not, you're not proclaiming like from the mountaintop that you know what's right and wrong. I like your attitude. But does anybody have a question for him based on what we've been discussing? Okay, you get down to the tertiary levels. Ernie, go ahead. I can't hear you.
Sorry, can't hear you.
Is Ernie on? You're on.
I can hear something. I just can't hear a coherent voice.
Something's up with his mic.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Sorry. Anybody else got a question? Work on it, Ernie. I'm sure you got something good to say. Anybody else got a question for him?
What's the most typical recruiter, let's say, coaching issue? Like,
he wants to move. Ivan wants to move to something else. Or hold on, is Ernie back?
Is that any better?
Ivan will come to you in a second. It's a good question.
Okay, good.
Ernie, go ahead.
When you ask a question, Aki, and you call somebody, do you cold call them? Or do you?
Sometimes it's cold calling. Okay. Recently, for the last 5 years, majority would be referrals.
Okay, so you call them, you try to get their background.
Yeah.
Do you have a template or a questionnaire that you use to talk?
Oh, if it's a really cold call, at least what we do in Japan is you're not going to go into all of that right away. Mm-hmm. All you're going to do is, look, I'm a recruiter. You want to at least try to get there. Mm-hmm. I have this offer. Usually you want to approach them with something to hook them with. You don't just call them with nothing to offer. You got to have something to offer, something to hook them. And once you have that, then you can say, hey, okay, let's arrange a coffee, or nowadays it's more like, hey, let's arrange a Zoom where we can get in more depth, and I'd love to explain to you this or other interesting opportunities as well.
One of the questions I always ask is, what's your motivation for moving?
Yeah.
looking for new.
Yeah, but this is
At what
standard.
point? At
Why
what
do you
point?
want to leave? Yeah, what's your
Well,
motivation
that's the same
for
thing.
leaving?
But at what point do you ask that question?
That I would ask again, probably the fourth, fifth question.
What's your most important question?
Most important question is, what is it that, like, what do they want to do? What's their goal? You know, what is it that, you know, professional career goal? What is it that they're aiming for?
And what if they ramble? You know,
Well, I'll
people,
let them ramble. Like, to be honest, it's okay. I mean, as long as they don't go too far off. Like, rambling means that they're getting comfortable with me. And again, in Japan, it's all about gaining that respect. Once you have that, they're never going to leave you, right? It's kind of like courting a woman, I guess.
and do you ask them about their salary expectations?
Definitely want to
connect?
talk about that, but usually in Japan, you don't talk about that the first thing. It's more about building that respect first, because salary in Japan, at least, is quite a sensitive issue. It's a very personal thing that you won't usually say that as a first boom.
Do you know you have this culture of people working till 10 o'clock at night and all this craziness? Does anybody tell you that's Japanese? I don't want to do this anymore.
Everyone will say that within their friends. Everyone knows they hate it, but it's kind of like, what's I'm trying to think of the English word. In Japanese, you say shoganai. In English, you would say, it's like, kind of like, oh, what the hell? There's nothing can be helped. It's like, this is the way it is.
And is, just for my understanding, is drinking a big part of Japanese work culture?
I would say there's something called the nomikais, basically drinking gatherings that everyone basically does, and it's right after work. Like, people will, on the way home, they'll go to the pub that's near the station, and yeah, that's a big thing in Japan.
But is that something you do at 10 o'clock at night?
Or later?
I mean, I'm leaving work at 10 o'clock. Do I go have a drink at that time?
Yeah, if you want. I mean, it's not a strange thing. You're gonna find people at the bars and pubs.
I'm trying to learn the culture.
Wife, okay, I guess, did she just put up with it?
Well, again, that's kind of normal in Japan.
Okay,
Yeah.
but let me make a point, and let's move on to Ivan's question. First of all, like, when I read your articles, and I read anything I could find, you got a lot of comments on my recruiting group, Recruiters Online on Facebook, and you sounded like you wanted to be a therapist. Now here, it's a complete turnaround. It sounds like you're a regular recruiter. You're not, saying, listen, honey, can you tell me the deepest longings, or sir, what are your deepest longings that you feel are, unsatisfied?
Well, those are
in
something
life?
important to get to know for sure, though. That you definitely want to get to know that.
I haven't heard it from you yet. Move on to Ivan. He's going to talk about something else. Let me just, what's your website again, Aki?
thinkdoachieve.com.
Thinkdoachieve.com. And do you have a Japanese character one as well? Or is it just English?
No, websites are all, I think they're all English, or
really?
The Latin
and
alphabet.
I didn't ask Mario R. I can't remember it. You better tell me. What is it? What's your website?
What am I?
What's your website?
Oh, alexisrecruiting.com.
Alexis Recruiting?
Alexis, EL. Alexis.
Quick question to Mario. Is it Mario or Mario?
It's either Mario or Mario.
Yeah, that's how
Think
it
of
is.
Super Mario, okay?
Yeah.
You know the guy who jumps up? Nintendo.
Yeah, okay,
He's
awesome.
a normal
I love
guy.
it.
He doesn't go
like it.
crazy if you say his name the wrong way. Ivan, before I let you ask your question, okay? You said that I made a mistake. You didn't learn the local accent. You learned the local dialect. Well, do you speak the local dialect with the wrong accent?
I hope I don't have an accent. I try to speak the Zurich dialect, essentially.
Well, I don't know what that means.
That's awesome. My brother-in-law is Swiss German.
Oh yeah, ask your question. Ask your question.
So what is the biggest issue recruiters have or come to you for coaching?
A lot of it is actually, interestingly enough, more on the mental side, right? Like a lot of recruiters. I mean, I think anywhere in the world, it's a very fast-paced industry. It can be really exciting. If you like that fast pace, you can see results. It's like one of those jobs where you don't really need to wait to see results. You can see the numbers, you can see the, the bonuses coming in, or the incentive, all of that coming in right away. But on the downside is, it's sometimes you have your really great months and sometimes you have your really low months, right? That's the way it is. So and all that, I get a lot of people who, kind of just on their downsides, like they don't feel the motivation, they don't feel, oh man, it's like, shit, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm like going to get panicked or whatever, get it here and that. So a lot of those. And also, yeah, just about just interviewing and talent branding. That's that one big one in Japan right now.
Talent branding, what's that? Okay, you're also, do you have a follow-up, Ivan, to make them dig a little deeper? What is talent branding? What are you talking about there?
So if you think about recruiting as a business, like every business needs to have, there's the sales side, which is very easy to know, but then there's also the marketing side, which is to attract people, get the leads, get people aware of what you do. And kind of that's what talent branding is, especially for in-house, but also agency side, is you want to get people to be aware of your brand.
You mean employment branding?
That's correct. Yeah.
Employment branding. Okay. Okay. And so do you want to give us some tips? Is that what you're looking for? I feel like I haven't got to the heart of what you're doing. I think Ivan is closer to what you do. You give out concrete tips, but what about, he's asking, you sort of told him though, sorry, everybody, if I'm on the wrong track. The 6 people here, I'm only one of them. Everybody can ask questions. Just interrupt me. Aki, you're welcome to also say, hey, you don't know what you're doing. Let me ask my own questions. I know what I know. Okay. But
you can yell at him too.
Yeah, you can yell. Okay. But you just told Ivan that the problem that most recruiters come for is not it's not talent, it's not employment branding, it's not how to make a cold call, it's not what to put in your subject line of your email, it's motivation. Is that the biggest problem that you see for recruiters?
Well, it depends on your experience level, but that is definitely one. Motivation is one. Well, not more. I wouldn't say motivation.
Depression. I don't know what you want to call it. Keeping your spirits up. You just said, hey, it's you said the market.
I guess motivation would be a general blanket term, I suppose.
And so that's when you actually act sort of like a life coach. Is that what you're saying? Or I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if life coach is the word I would use, but just kind of being a manager for your team, right? Same thing, right? You just tell them, look, let's make your goal. Let's see what we can do. What are the steps that are not locking? Let's look at the data. What a manager would do, but more on a personal level, I guess.
Ivan, do you have a question?
I got a question, Animal.
Go ahead,
can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah.
All right.
He looks like a bruiser. I like his tough look. Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I like your hat too, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, I need to get one of those.
So I'm in Massachusetts, and we're kind of a melting pot. We have a lot of Asian, African, a lot of community related. Listen, anyone that's been in the business for over 10 years, you're kind of saying what kind of everybody does, right? We network, we see the value, we try to negotiate, but I don't see that as like the next visionary thing. I think you got to do that, like I said, just to play the game, just to recruit. But what are your thoughts on artificial intelligence and the avenue that's going to play with some of these new platforms where I'm going to be spending my money? I'm trying to get my company to spend lots of money on that's really going to, really change the market. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't see that.
I got a guy who was on a few weeks ago who actually wants to talk about that. If you come on, I'll bring him on as a guest. I don't know if that's Aki's specialty. Aki, do you have something specific to say about
Sure.
AI?
I mean, I actually got asked this question the other day as well. Actually, I was the one who asked it because I'm really interested in the whole aspect of AI as well, especially when it comes to recruiting. And to be honest, I think it's going to be a huge help. It's going to streamline our processes, even things like resume screening. I think if you have someone makes up a really good AI solution, that's going to be great. But at the end of the day, when it comes to like actually closing people, actually talking to them, getting them, to want to go to that job, and getting people comfortable and building that long-term relationship, you're always going to need a recruiter there who's going to be able to talk with them, learn what their dreams are, what their fears are, etc.
So
Yeah,
that's
it's
like,
honestly it's lack of talent, and scouring the internet. And I don't usually give props to anybody, but I've had a lot of talks with this startup in California called Tool, and
Yeah,
they're
they used to be
we're
our
spending a
sponsor.
ton of money at it. We're looking
Sorry,
at
can you say
spending a
that
lot
name
of money.
again?
HIRETUAL, Hire Tool. It's a sourcing
Okay.
tool.
Yes, and that I believe is going to change.
Yeah, I think I read that in an article somewhere.
You gotta read up about at least the sourcing tools, Hire Tool, Seek Out. What are the others? Anybody know offhand?
Loxo.
Seamless AI.
What? Intello.
Seamless.ai.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard
You
of
have
that one.
Loxo AI also that comes
What?
with the Loxo.
Loxo is big
Loxo
with
AI.
Amazon.
Loxo, that's part of the ATS, right?
Right.
Don't
Like
forget.
a lot of these guys use the term AI, and it seems like it's really loosely used right now. Like I'm not really a tech person, but
Ivan's
I know.
a programmer. Do you want to
No,
comment, Ivan?
Yeah, but well, so
No, he doesn't want to see.
here's the 30-second thing. There's 750 million LinkedIn profiles, right?
Right.
On LinkedIn. Half of those are active, half of those are dead.
Yeah.
Then you got groups like GitHub, you got groups like just millions of platforms. So
Sure.
this integrates everything. It will integrate into your ATS. You can do campaigns, but not like LinkedIn. LinkedIn,
Right.
you got to send these stupid in-mails and no one responds or they don't check whatever. This company gives you direct phone number and email information.
Yeah.
It's kind of groundbreaking. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, you
Kind of
just
like a
heard
web
about
scraping
Hire
tool.
Tools. They sponsored us for a couple of years, although unfortunately I didn't charge them all those years. Okay, I'm going to go to my standard questions. Okay, I'm going to swing around. Aki, I invite you to interrupt me at any time. Okay, let me see. Okay,
Do it now. Do it now.
I got some questions. What about a VPN? Does anybody? I bought a VPN this week, ExpressView. Okay, because there was a guy on our show, a famous sourcer, Aaron Lintz. He said every recruiter needs a good virtual personal network. Right? That's what it stands for. So I bought the most expensive one. It was like 99 US a year, and the reason I got that one, it was not only supposedly very secure, but it's very fast. And I tried it out yesterday. And it doesn't slow videos down or anything like that. I had tried, Opera has a free VPN, which works to some degree. It changes your IP address, but it slows the videos down. This thing, ExpressView, was pretty good. Anybody want to comment on that? Starting with Aki, do you use a VPN?
No, I actually don't.
So you don't feel it's essential?
For what I do in Japan, no, I don't really feel it's essential.
Anybody else want to comment on that VPN? Am I the only one who's investigating it?
I heard it's really good. I have recruiters in the UK who use VPNs.
Okay, I'm going to move on. Okay, let me see. We talked about noble art recruiting. How can someone pick a coach? Any idea? Quick thoughts about that? Let's say somebody wants a coach as a recruiter. Any special questions they should be asking to say, like I told you right away, I could tell, like I could speak to you. Okay, whether I'd like your answers or not is another story, but I wouldn't hate you. Is there any way that a person can judge a coach? Should they just watch their videos on YouTube? What would you say? If somebody somebody wants to judge before they call me or send me an email, if I'm a good coach for them, what questions should they ask themselves, or what questions should they ask you?
So if I'm the one who's looking for a coach.
Yeah.
Well, number one is someone who can listen and also can make me a little bit uncomfortable.
How can you tell that before you hire them?
Well, you want to have a conversation before you hire them, right? It's like you're interviewing them for the job, basically.
Mm-hmm. And then what do you say at the end? Sorry, I don't think you're for me. I don't feel you don't click for me. Is that what?
Yeah, if they're not a click for you, don't hire them.
Okay.
Don't hire someone you don't want to work with.
Okay. You asked if you had one skill that would help you as a recruiter, what would it be? Anybody want to comment on that? I know what I always have the same answer. Ernie, what is it?
To me, it's just to be able to listen, be able to talk to
Listening.
people.
Listening. Todd, what's the thing you need most? The skill you need most as a recruiter? You don't know? Okay.
You know what? Recruiting never sleeps. You got to have that tenacity.
What's that? Coffee? Is that your skill? Drinking coffee? Mario
No.
R. Mario, do you have one essential skill?
Yeah, the ability to close, to be a closer.
Ability to close. Maybe that's something that Aki could.
Mario, you seem like a pretty good closer.
Send an invoice. The ability to send an invoice.
What is closing?
I
When
know how
someone
it's better,
says, I
okay?
don't want this job, and you turn them around and persuade them, hey, this is for you. You told me you want a better sex life with your wife, but stress is killing you. Well, this job is going to give you low stress. You're a number one stress guy like Ernie. This is what you want. Is that closing?
Well, see, Mr. Animal, you actually put a point to my previous answer to your question. You knew about someone's sex life.
Yeah, I would
Had to
never
get
ask
personal.
them about that, and I
Oh
don't
no,
want
but
them
wait,
telling me.
I'm not letting you off the hook on this one, man.
He was talking about a hobby. He was talking about a hobby.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like when you're closing someone, whether it's a candidate, you have to know what their desired state is. And what you're doing is closing the gap with their current state, where they feel like there's a lack, to what they want to get, that desired state. And as a salesperson, recruiting or not, all you're doing is closing the gap.
So
you
when
need to know
Mario
what they
says he
want.
wants closing as a skill, well, does that just mean ask them questions about what they want, what they're leaving at the start, like you say, why would you want to leave this job? What would you want? What would you want long term? And then you say that you match it up with what this position is offering.
And you
No,
want
no,
to
no,
make
no,
them.
no.
Well,
You
let
want to
Mario,
Animal.
go ahead.
Animal, I would like to be a closer like Harvey Specter from Suits. Simple. If anyone has seen Suits, you get the idea.
I've watched that show a few times. He coerces people. He blackmails
Yeah.
them somehow.
So what? So what? It's better than, I don't mind. I need the job done. Hey, I'm straight up. I want what I want. That's it.
Hey, Animal, I'm. You know what? I've been dying to know. It's keeping me in suspense. I'm dying to know Akai's story, because he told him it kind of made him the recruiter he is. I'm really interested in that.
Okay, well, let me
Okay.
see how much time we have. Okay, I want to
20
do a few
minutes?
more. We'll get to that. Let's leave that for the last 10 minutes, okay? I
All
want to
right,
get
all
to
right.
this meat of recruiting now. I asked all the fuzzy stuff for the first 20 or 30 minutes, okay? So I want to get to these normal recruiting questions. Ivan, do you have one skill?
The first thing that came to my mind was impatience.
You're with
Impatience or
Ernie.
patience?
You're
Yeah,
with Ernie.
because you
Come on.
need to no, as like the greatest skill of a recruiter, because you have to make things very quick and
Oh,
decisively
it's
and
the
correct
opposite.
and
Like a sense of urgency.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
impatient, and sense yeah, maybe that's a better word.
That's
Yeah, a
why it's
sense of
good
urgency.
people don't ask me about my hobbies, because I'm a low energy guy, okay? And I don't really want them to know that up front, although maybe I should. But here's the thing. Aki says you got to let these guys ramble. I mean, Ernie asked him, well, how long are you going to let them talk? Are you going to interrupt them? And he said, no, I'm building rapport. Some of these people could
Well,
talk forever. If
obviously.
you've got a sense of urgency, will you let them talk, Ivan? I'll let Aki contradict it. How long do you let these programmers talk? Or they don't like talking, maybe. They're all introverts. What's the story there?
Programmers sometimes are very extreme. Some don't talk at
That's true.
all. Like you ask, hey, what did you do in the last 5 years in your job? And they just answer, did programming work? And their CV is exactly the same. It just says 5 years, did programming stuff. The Americans are a little bit less worse than the Europeans, but Europeans are really terrible at that. And at the other end of the extreme is programmers telling you all kinds of absolutely irrelevant details.
And do you
So
shut
have
them
all
up?
kinds of.
Do you shut them up or do you let them ramble?
If I like the person, then I just join the ramble. But if I do not like the person, I will just do other work meanwhile.
You're what?
While
Sorry, I can barely hear you. Is that my fault? Can everybody hear him?
Yeah, I can hear.
It's your fault.
I'll turn up my sound. How do you interrupt? You just move on to another question. You just
No,
interrupt them.
I do like admin work, or so. If I do not like the person, I try to like do other work, admin stuff, and like
while they're
I mean,
talking,
stay
you're
with the
doing
person,
something
but
else. You're looking at your movies.
if I do not like the person and it's completely irrelevant and so on and so on, I found this very good mixture.
Okay,
to
but you don't
still
tell
get the
them to
good
shut up.
results.
You
After
let
that.
them blab. You don't say,
Why-
hey,
why
you
should-
know.
Well,
I would
I did-
guide the conversation for sure. Like you don't want
Akis
to
wants to get
for
in.
them
Go
to
ahead.
control the conversation.
Go ahead.
Or yeah,
You
I mean,
told us
maybe
you
I'm
let them
not so
ramble.
professional.
You told us before they're on a couch with you.
I would
You
definitely
them
let
talk.
them talk, but definitely keep them in the flow of the conversation where you want to do, which is always to get to know what they want and what they want to get away from.
You know, they're as you're talking to them, and they're on that borderline between talking and rambling. How do you coach them with the understanding that when they go into the interview,
Good
this could be a
question.
deal breaker?
Oh, yeah, then you can just tell them straight up, especially if it's like a interview prep session that you're doing with your candidate.
No, this is the first time you talk to them.
Oh, first time I'm
It-
talking to them, then I'm just going to definitely let them do all of that. And you're going to take notes so that when it comes time to, your second meeting, because in Japan, you don't all do that on the first meeting. The first meeting is really just about building that trust.
In all the time you've done that, you've never gone to the first meeting and then submitted them? Does it
First
always have to be 2 meetings?
I would not usually submit. I don't think I've ever submitted someone from the first like phone call or 20-minute call.
Dang.
Only the culture is very different over there in Japan.
Oh yeah,
Trust me.
no. I can understand that.
I
I'm just
understand what you're
asking for the
saying.
culture.
Aki, I have a question for you. Okay,
Sure.
what's the opinion on now? See, considering that there's a labor shortage of technically skilled workers
Yeah.
in Japan, and there aren't enough candidates. What's the idea? What's the value of bringing people from abroad over to Japan?
So that's such a really hot topic in government right now, and Japan needs to open its borders.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, the government in Japan, they're really slow. I mean,
Okay,
it's
yeah,
a country that still loves its fax machines. I was telling Animal here.
True.
So they need, and there's a lot of the bureaucrats, they still have that very
bureaucracy.
old
That's
mindset.
not the problem. They don't like foreigners. They imported
That
a
too.
lot of Japanese. They imported a lot of Japanese from Brazil. People who had emigrated to Brazil, and they didn't like them. Once they got there, they didn't have Japanese manners. They looked Japanese, but they weren't Japanese, and they wanted to get rid of them. At least that's what I read. Okay, is that
So
true?
right now, to answer Mario's question, there's a
Sure,
huge
Mike.
debate going on to loosen the visa restrictions. In fact, let's say just 10 years ago, if you were to go to a convenience store, a supermarket, almost like you would almost never see a foreigner working there, a non-Japanese person. Now it's more common because finally the government's realizing if there aren't enough people, there's no one going to be working these jobs, and there's no one working in jobs, and the economy is going to go tank. Now there's actual coffee shops, like coffee chains in Japan, in Tokyo, the big city here, that had to close down, not because they didn't have customers, but because they didn't have staff to man the shop. Now, that's becoming more and more of an issue in Japan.
Let me interrupt. Okay, Tyron Giuliani, he's on Facebook. He was a very successful recruiter. He lives in Tokyo. He's Australian, but he lives in Tokyo for 20 years. And you might want to get to know him. He placed exclusively Westerners.
Sorry, can you say his name?
Tyron, I'll send it to you after. Tyron Giuliani, great guy. Now he's a LinkedIn coach. Okay, I think you'd like him. Another guy, well-known social media consultant. He lived in Japan, and his wife is Japanese. He lives in California now. His name is Neil Schaefer. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I'll send you their information, but they know Japanese culture as well as Westerners who've worked there. Okay,
But the
Mario,
great thing about this, though,
One more question, if you don't mind, Aki.
yeah.
Just a
What are you
curious
planning
question.
on working in Japan? What do you care what they
No,
do
Michael,
there?
I'm a business guy. Okay, I'm
hey
a
man,
recruiter,
Mario
okay? I'm a
seems to
business
actually
guy first.
be pretty familiar with Japan. I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, dude, I'm a big. I've been to
Mario's
Japan
Japanese.
a couple of times. Okay, I am a big anime manga fan. I read manga regularly, all the stuff. Okay, so aside from my business
Isn't that
interests.
porno?
Okay.
Manga? Manga's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
Big
comic book.
hentai fan also. I love hentai, dude. Let's
Go
be
ahead.
real.
Okay.
Okay.
Love your honesty,
So,
dude.
yeah, dude, let's not go there. Okay, I'm on video. Okay, my wife will kill me. All right. See, this is the funny part of it. Now on the serious question, uh, what are the fee structures like in Japan? I'm just curious
So
to know.
that's exactly where I was going to go. So the downside to Japan is it's one of the most difficult markets to recruit for because there's a lack of candidates. It's just super hard. That's why building relationship is probably the biggest skill that you can have as a recruiter. Because once you have a good candidate, you're going to place them throughout their lifetime multiple times, right? Not just once and then like see you later. It's once, then a few years down the line when they're thinking about something happens or they're looking again, they're going to come back to you and you can place them again. So that's that, or they're going to introduce their friends, their family, and all of that. That's how you're going to build a network to be successful. But because it's so hard, the great thing about recruiting in Japan is you can charge fees that most other countries you would think is stupid. So
Like how much?
usually the base fee of an annual salary is 30 to 35%. That's like the base level. That's
Okay.
That's
That's
what
nice.
Tyron said.
now when it's like a company that's really looking for like people that they really need to find, I've actually placed positions that were 100% fee, like game programmers. And just a few years ago, when there was a big boom in the gaming industry in Japan, especially mobile, there was a huge gaming company in Japan that had, for 1 year, they had to hire like 100 game programmers or more, 100, 200, 100% fees on all their positions.
That's unbelievable.
Wow.
I
Yeah,
heard
because
this was
an
the case
American
1999 during the .com boom.
it
That this was the
was
case, but since
right
then I
before.
didn't hear
Yeah,
that.
it was actually like right after Lehman's. Actually, there was like a gaming bubble, just that area. That was crazy. But yeah, in Japan, average, like you're not going to go lower than 30.
Let me move. Okay. What about, now you reminded me about, you said you're working on commission. Yes, you said you've worked all aspects of recruiting, in-house, out-house, etc. How do you do business development? But first of all, Todd Schechter, okay? I assume you're an in-house program recruiter, so you don't necessarily have a website you want to share with us. But you sound like you would be a good guest for the show. What about 2 weeks? I need somebody. You want to be the guest?
Yeah.
Todd, can I book you?
Sure.
You could say no. Say I wouldn't be on this crappy show. I don't want to be interviewed by you.
All right. I will
Fine.
say yes, Animal, but can I wear my own hat too? I mean, and
You wear whatever
glasses
you
or
want. I told the guy
all
to
right,
guest.
all right,
He can interrupt me.
all right.
Ernie said he could yell at me.
Okay.
Anything goes.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I think we would have a good intellect, yes, and I'm from Boston, so I can hold my own,
We heard about Boston. There's lots of people there. I'll save that for the next time. Okay, but
all right.
I'm going to get to your question. Aki does want to tell his life story. You want to hear it, but first I want to ask him how he did business development, because Aki tells us, okay, once he learned how to get into people's hearts, he became a superstar recruiter. Okay, and you can read it. I mean, like, he's very successful. And I believe him. He's got a lot of style. I think he was successful and hopefully will be in his new venture as well. But how did you do business development? Can you break it down?
Sure. So business development, again, because candidates are so hard to come by, and again, there's a mentality in Japan for candidates to go through agencies. That's kind of like the way they feel safe.
Okay.
Again, Mario mentioned it's about saving face, right? So they feel like if someone else represents them, it's safer for them. So most companies have to use agencies for the majority, not all of them.
You have 30% fees and candidates love using agencies. That sounds like
candidates
heaven.
don't have to pay.
No, that's not what he meant. That's not what he meant.
No.
If they can go directly to the company, then the company saves the money. So they might see it as not worthwhile going through an agency.
The culture is very different, Ivan. It's a very different culture.
Okay, so let's find out his secret
Business
for doing business development.
What you do is basically probably like I would assume it's same as in the States, but you go to a company, see their website, see that they're looking to hire. And it's great if you have a few profiles that you can have on hand that you can say that you can introduce, and you just cold call, look for their HR or direct line manager. If you know someone who works at the company, that's a great place.
I was surprised. I'll just note something. I was surprised by something you said before. You said if you call up a candidate, you cold call a candidate, that you always have to have something in hand, substantial. I would have thought, since we didn't get to your talk about talent communities, okay, I feel bad about that, but I would have thought that you would be the kind of guy who would just call people in the industry and let them know who you are and show them how friendly you are and personable and build a little rapport, and then come back to them some other time and use that as the foundation for future calls about specific jobs. So I would think that also you might be the kind of guy who wouldn't necessarily to look at a company to see if they're hiring. Just call up the person and say, look, my name's Aki, and the longer version, whatever you like, and I'm a recruiter in this business.
The thing is, you can choose for which 8 companies you want to work for as a recruiter. Like, you don't want to work for any company, right? You want to pick and choose your clients, because there's more than enough companies out there that are looking. Everyone's looking to hire. That's not the problem.
Oh, but my point is that you call them about specific jobs that you see them advertising. That's your technique. And you've got correct. Most valuable candidate or something in hand, okay, to call them, right?
Yeah.
That's your thing. So what do you say when you get on the phone?
With
or do you leave a voicemail? I mean, do you leave a voicemail?
If you don't pick up, a voicemail, an email, everything,
What's your voicemail? What's your voicemail?
Hi, my name is Zaki. I work for such. If it's for an agency, then I'm this and this. I saw that you're looking to hire. I have someone great. I'd love to speak with you. I can really offer a solution to your needs right now. I'll call back in 30 minutes or an hour or day after tomorrow, whatever.
An hour. Okay. And how many times will you call? How many voicemails will you leave before they, if they don't call? Will you call them 80 times?
If it's a company I really want to work for,
yeah,
I won't stop. I won't leave voicemails every time, but I'll definitely keep calling.
Okay, and how many do you coordinate that with emails as well?
Yeah, I would send them a couple emails as well. I'm not going to spam them with emails though. Probably send
not
them
one
like
a week 3. Or one every time you call, or what?
No, not every time I call. I mean, again, it depends on how many times, but I don't want to do more than 3.
What's the subject line in the email?
Like put their position that they have hiring for. And then offer the solution that, look, I have this and this for you. I saw that you're looking for. Okay. I have this and this.
In the body of the email, is it just similar, a general statement like you made, or is it about a specific candidate?
I would say, I wouldn't put a specific candidate, but I would say, like, I have such and such pool. This is where I specialize in. I can help. Even if I don't have a candidate, if I specialize in that field, this is what I've done. I've helped these companies before.
Okay. I don't have time to find out the results. I would see, normally we would have asked you these questions at the start and dug in. Okay. I was looking for a little something different today. Now I know you for the future. We'll have to talk about talent communities as well again in the future. Problem. I'd like you to come back. Now we're going to do what Todd wants and you want. Tell your story in your own way. Go ahead. You got 10 minutes.
All right. So my story is quite unique. Born in Japan, was raised in Japan.
I won't interrupt, but people can interrupt if they want to ask
feel free.
Question. Go ahead.
So interestingly enough, my parents joined this Christian commune when I was young, and that's why. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, weird story. Okay. And that's why I learned English, because this group was based in the U.S. and they came to Japan, and my parents and my grandparents decided to sponsor them, fund them. So that's why I learned English. So I went to Mexico when I was 16, spent about several years there, and then also lived in Colombia and Venezuela as well.
So you speak Spanish?
Well, did you hear how I said Colombia? Colombia.
Yeah, Colombia.
Pero sí. But yeah, so I came back to Japan. I was running a few small businesses in Venezuela, Latin America. Had 2 kids when I was there. So for those of you who are like have the math brain, when I mentioned my eldest son's age and how old I look, you can probably think like, what age did this guy actually have his first child? To answer that, actually, can you guys guess?
I'm bad at arithmetic.
12.
Oh, very good. In my 10s, definitely. No, I was 19.
Okay.
So that kind of forced me to figure out something. And when I came back to Japan in 2010, I had absolutely no skills. I never went to university, any type of like college or anything
He
like
sounds
that.
educated, doesn't he? He sounds so smooth. That's what impresses me the most. Go
It's
ahead.
street.
I read a lot. Well, I did.
Yeah, and
Japanese
one
people
more
like
thing, Michael, it's all about experience. Okay, this
That's
guy's got
exactly
solid
true.
No,
experience.
it isn't. Look, he's a good communicator. He's got a nice personality. His English is perfect, and he
Yeah.
delivers so well. Okay, much better than me. I'm willing to
Well,
admit
yeah,
it.
that's
So-
what recruiting does, right? 10 years. And I think that's why recruiting is such an awesome job, to be honest. You learn a whole lot that you can
But
literally
Japanese
use.
people like
everywhere.
cults. Is that a terrible thing for me to say? They do though, right?
I wouldn't say I would say there's a fascination for him.
Now-
An almost unhealthy fascination.
Okay. Is your wife
That's an
Japanese as
obsession.
well? Is she Japanese? Your wife
No,
Japanese?
she's Venezuelan. Ex-wife. Divorced now.
Okay.
Ex-wife.
Okay.
Sorry to hear that, dude.
But go ahead, continue your story. So
Yeah,
you were
so-
brought up in this cult, and you didn't have an education, but you had some kind of small business that you were doing. Is that right?
Well, I was running a few things because obviously I had no further option or no other option that I can think of to support, 2 kids coming back straight from living abroad with no real experience. But I was lucky enough to get a job at Robert Walters. So some of you may know, it's a recruiting global firm based in the UK.
Your friend
but-
from basketball. Okay.
Yeah, hey, look,
Said to
someone's
you.
a reader.
Yeah.
Thank
Your
you.
friend said,
There.
"Hey, you know what? I think you'd fit in there." Right?
Exactly. So that's what I did. Again, like all of you, I don't know how long you guys been like recruiting for, you guys are experts, obviously a lot longer than I have been. But first 6 months was absolutely terrible. Like I had a lot of like self-esteem issues, especially my lack of formal
Oh, I
education.
forgot. That's your introduction to the group. You said, "Does anybody feel like an imposter?" Go ahead. Talk
Yeah,
about
so that's why that really resonates with me because and that's kind of why I also wanted to do this coaching is for people who are more new to recruiting who have that same issue. Like I wanted to help them out, like kind of give back to them because I wanted to show that recruiting is actually a really awesome job if you can overcome those limiting beliefs that we have of ourselves. So that's kind of why I'm doing this is kind of to give back because I felt that recruiting had given me a lot of opportunities to grow as a person professionally, career-wise as well. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
That's it. The guy
that's
who
kind of
asked
my-
for your
yeah, sure.
story,
I have a
he
question.
left.
Yeah.
He disappeared. I guess it's 1 o'clock almost.
Aki,
so-
what kind of businesses were you running before you got into recruiting?
So the first one I started was again more like a freelance project when I was about 17 years old, creating marketing content and video for friends, family, father. And then the second one was creating seminars and workshops for small to medium-sized businesses in Venezuela.
Okay, so basically he already had the marketing side down before he got into recruiting.
Oh, well, I kind of taught myself as I learned and like talked to people who are good at it to learn from them.
Right.
Yeah, and
Can
of
you
course,
talk-
YouTube and
Todd,
Google is
Todd,
awesome.
that was a good suggestion. His story is interesting and he tells it well. But we'll talk a little more about the imposter syndrome. How did you do? How did it come up? And like, were you trying to recruit programmers and you didn't know anything about programming? And how did you deal with it?
Well, I had no idea that the recruiting industry even existed when I first joined.
Mhm.
It was literally desperate. That's what drove me to the job was desperation. I didn't want to do like a menial job. I wanted to do something that, I can like make a name of myself, so to speak. And that's kind of how I did. But once I got in, I was like, holy shit, who am I to be calling these, companies, these candidates, they're smart, they're educated, they're senior, whatever, they have X number of experience in life. So that was pretty limiting for me. And
How did you do? Can you remember one event that you could tell us? Well, I was calling this guy. For instance, I know a guy, very successful, very, very like $1 million biller, not rich, another guy. Okay. And he told me that he used to say he was in his early 20s. He was calling these guys who were his father's age. They had title director, and he just felt so intimidated. He made up his mind. I'm never going to call them Mr. I'm going to talk to everybody by their first name so I can feel like I'm on an equal basis. And that was his solution, and it worked for him. And this guy's very forward. Very, very
Aki
forward.
called you Mr. Animal. I don't know if you got that.
I do call him Mr. Animal.
But I'm asking you, did you have some specific thing? Can you remember an event where you felt like
I wouldn't say it
nobody?
was
How do I have the nerve to call this guy? And how did you eventually
It wasn't
do it?
really a specific event. It was more like, well, I started to see that, when I was actually made a placement in the placement I made, this person like had such a tremendous impact in that person's life. I was like, wow, I'm actually doing something that's helping someone. It's not just the stress of, getting behind in my KPIs or, not making enough money so I can get my bonus or whatever, my paycheck. And that kind of really helped me. It's like, hey, these guys are just people as well. They have their fears. They have their worries, they have their dreams. No matter even if they're an SVP or an executive or a junior programmer, it didn't really matter. These guys are all human beings, and I'm a human being, and it doesn't really matter where I'm from, what education degree I have. If I can connect with them individually as a human being, they don't give a shit about, sorry, pardon my French, but of where I'm from, of my upbringing. And that's when I kind of realized, hey, this is something that I can talk to them on an even level.
Okay,
Aki,
Mary
I have a
wants to ask
question
you
for
a
you.
question. Go ahead, Mary.
Sorry if I'm going back. Basically, you communicate with them in Japanese, correct?
Japanese
Or
and
just speak
English.
Okay, in English. Okay, that's cool. And what about really voicemails? Is it in Japanese or English?
Depends on the person, right? Some people, I actually prefer to speak in English because English is it's a lot more direct language. Japanese,
Yes.
you have to be more like, it's more indirect. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
circles.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's very bothersome, tedious.
But how do you recruit in Japan? I mean, I suppose, why would people speak English if like the language is Japanese?
You definitely speak Japanese for the people who are Japanese, but some people do speak English as well. Again, it's less than 5% of the population speak English.
Oh, really?
But it's a very in-demand skill, especially nowadays.
I mean, if I'm correct, Aki, just a question. I think a lot of the youngsters know a lot of English now. I mean, they are more globalized.
Unfortunately, they do get educated English, but
Okay.
Japanese way of educating people in English is kind of like trying to teach someone Japanese, like kanjis,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
is not really
They cram it
useful.
in.
If they don't use it, they can't communicate. They might be able to read and write, but they can't like communicate, right? So that now some people can, but for the majority, it's still a little bit behind.
Okay.
It's not like India where you guys speak like 4 languages, right? You guys like speak Hindi, English, and then your local dialect.
First things first. Let me clarify. I'm Sri Lankan. I'm not Indian. There's a big difference.
Okay.
I'm married to an Indian.
But you guys speak like 2 languages at least.
I speak one language. That's a fact. Simple.
1 language.
Yeah, I suck at languages.
What's that language?
Your English is
It's
pretty
embarrassing.
good. Your English
But
is
English
not
is
as good as
right.
his, but
Thank you.
pretty
I
good.
studied in international school also, so
Oh, okay.
that's why.
Any final questions? Let's open up for the last few minutes. Anybody want to ask him something else?
It was a
Ernie?
good interview. It was a good talk. Thank you, Aki.
I felt
Yeah,
I
thank
failed.
you.
I failed.
Moreno-san.
Aki, you can come back anytime because I would take a different approach with you. Okay.
Okay, no worries. Take it whatever way.
I would get more down to the
your
nitty gritty.
style. And
And you don't have to be a guest. Just jump in.
Yeah, you can call anytime you want, but don't
Oh,
forget,
okay.
Ernie, it's like midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning there for him. It's
yeah,
like 11 hours ahead.
sorry, I look
He's
a little
just coming off of work though.
Yeah. Okay.
Aki, one small thing before you run out. If Japan starts opening its borders, let's collaborate on a project. We can
Yeah,
make some
hey,
damn good
I'll
money.
connect. Find me on LinkedIn.
We're
I
on
can't see your
Facebook
last
already,
name.
man. We're
Okay.
connected on Facebook.
Oh,
We'll see
awesome.
there.
Perfect.
Well, he's in the group too. Okay, I'm going to give everybody's food industry recruiter is Ernie. I'm pretty sure .com. That'll take you to his LinkedIn profile. You saw if he wants to work with you, he will. If he doesn't like you, he won't. Okay, so
I love it. I love
dealing
it.
with a straight shooter who likes to have work with people he's very calm with. Ivan
No drama.
Guliani, he's an IT recruiter in Switzerland, but his claim to fame right now is KLANG.SO. It's his new ATS. And if you want to have a chat
That's
with
awesome.
him about it, he's a nice guy. You can see that. Todd Schechter is going to be the guest in 2 weeks. I actually booked somebody. Great. Okay. And you'll find out who he is there. I don't know anything about him. I
All
never met
right.
him before.
Well, Todd, I will be on that and as a viewer.
Okay. Mario R. It's alexisrecruiting.com. My memory's a sieve. Okay. We had a guy.
Perfect.
Yeah, we had a guy here recruiting sieve. Okay. .com. I remember that. Well, that's how my mind is. Think, achieve. What is it? What's your URL?
ThinkDoAchieve.com.
ThinkDoAchieve.com. ThinkDoAchieve.com. Our new friend. Everybody, thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Have a